Do not attempt to adjust your podcast player. We are controlling the transmission. We are here to be your guide, helping you to explore local events, the art scene, music, theater, sports, and possibly a conspiracy or two. All here on the GCRX Radio and Podcast Network.
With a Y, your favorite guy. Thank you for bearing with us. We had some minor technical difficulties, but we're here, right here in Granite City, as we are every Monday. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to GCRX out here in Studio B in Granite City. We are part of the conglomeration that is the Studio C, the movie theater, the Garden Gate Tea Room, the Board Gamery, where trivia happens every once in a while, first Friday of every month, and then the Downtown Diner. So I do want to welcome you to the show, and thank you so much for tuning in, or viewing it if you're watching it, like, not now, but later, if that makes any sense, because obviously you're watching it now. In the future.
Great Scott.
That would be Engineer Bill. Thank you so much, Bill. How are you today?
Good. And yourself?
I am great. Thanks for asking. We are joined today with the fantastic Nick Drago. He is here for his conspiracy show. Nick, how are you?
Oh, doing great. Good to be here. Good evening, folks.
Glad to have you here. Oh, man, it has been an exciting week. Super quick.
It's that exciting?
That exciting.
It started on Monday?
And, well, the past 7 days have been really exciting.
I was just curious.
We'll start.
You can tell me to shut up. It's fine.
What'd you do this past week or weekend?
Oh, hung out. Went to the Arkaden Theater in Missouri, in St. Louis. Saw House of Wax in 3D.
Oh.
The original one with Vincent Price. So that was cool. It's a Saturday afternoon thing. And really, that's about it. Just took it easy. Sunday, made some salmon. It was really good.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
Oh, yeah.
And you called it salmon, not like salmon. I've had some people who the L is silent, but like, oh no, salmon. Like, no, there's an L in there.
It would be just so much more fun if people went around actually just going with the silent letters or pronouncing the letters as they show. Yeah, it'd be great.
I just don't understand it.
Like, hey,
why
give me
put
some
it
of those
in there if it's going to be silent?
It's like the word colonel. There are
Colonial
no R's in colonel at all. Yeah. What is that all
Marine
about?
Corps. Marine Corps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Bunch of dead bodies.
What's that
marching into war? That's
like, we get it. We know what you're going to go do here.
Yeah. Introduce a bunch of people to Jesus.
Oh, boy.
Bill, what'd you do this past weekend?
Not a whole lot, other than, well, I wasn't really a part of it, but stuff got moved into the new office for Tech Talk. Some stuff. We're not there yet, but we're getting close.
Moving on up. That's what's up. If I remember correctly, wasn't there a Renaissance fair?
Oh, yes, that's right. We went to the Renaissance fair, but then we pansied out because it was hot.
That wasn't pansying out.
That was pansying
I don't know
out.
if you've ever fallen out because it's been so damn hot.
No, but I've been avoiding that my entire life. I've come close. But yeah, I've heard way too many stories of people who have had heat stroke and it plagues them for the rest of their life. So
yeah, look, so the mug, I made some sort of vanilla concoction. If you're wondering what it is that I'm drinking, so imagine, if you will, this beautiful face catches heat stroke and then just falls right on it. Just.
You had heat stroke?
No, never have. That's why I maintain this. This is the moneymaker. Like, I feel like if I had heat stroke, I would do my best to fall backwards because I'll take the concussion. I won't take the missing teeth.
I mean, they've made awesome advances in dentistry. You're good.
Yeah. And you know what? I've had enough concussions. I'm fairly functional, I think.
Really? You've had some concussions?
Oh, yeah.
That explains a lot.
Let me see. The
boy.
last one I had was probably about 22
4 hours ago.
Oh, so they
Well
gave you
played.
dementia too.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
got it.
Yeah, I was working at a KFC in New York, and the floor was wet, and these guys were throwing towels back and forth at each other. And one of them, I knew it was coming. He threw a towel at me, and I just like ducked back, and my feet met the same height of my eyes, and I was like, oh.
You know
Boom!
it's
I hit my head so hard, I was just like, oh, the stars, the bells, the whistles, the everything.
You know, they
man.
put that terracotta floor in restaurants like, oh, it's so anti-slip, but
Yeah,
the minute
no.
there's a drop of water or just a dab of oil from something, it's like a freaking skating rink. Like
Absolutely.
You think you could find something better that's a little more resilient to that kind of thing.
I will say the team did rally because they were like, okay, we have to keep him conscious for the next, 6 hours. What are we going to do? I know. Let's take him to the diner and just give him a crap ton of coffee. And I sat there and I just drank the coffee in a complete daze.
Did you go to that hospital?
Oh, no. I had this was my last one, but I had
you
several
coulda had
before.
A few bucks on that
Oh.
one.
Yeah.
You know.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Missed opportunities there, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, well. So I was at the Ren Fair with Bill, and that was fun. Shout out to Liz Coleman. I don't know if you're watching right now. That was a lot of fun, was it not? Feel free to just jump in the comments, just kind of throw that out there. We pansied out, too, during the jousting because the footwear wasn't where it needed to be, and feet hurt, and it was just like, all right, it's time to go. But they did let me take my real sword in there. Well, it was a real prop sword. It was made of metal.
Yeah, I'm surprised nobody said anything about that.
Oh, I mean, they were selling actual swords.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Okay, so as I'm going to transition and then transition again, we're going to do the quick, what's it called? Money thing of the week. Okay. Yeah,
okay,
we're going to do that super quick. So this is the rule of 50-25. Most people think after you've paid your mortgage for about 15 of the 30 years, you own half the house. You actually don't. You own about 25% of it because so much of it goes towards interest that it's interest. And this also assumes that there has been no appreciation in value of the house. That is your money tip of the week, the rule of 50-25. I'll have another one for you guys next week. And now we're going to talk to Nick because I believe we have some conspiracies, and I want to dive into this.
He goes, I don't know.
Because, I after the last show you were on, I hit you up, and I gave you some, I kind of just dropped a nugget about 23andMe, 7 of the 8 board members resigning.
That's weird. Yeah, but there's been a lot of people like CEOs retiring early and quitting, and like all around there's some people in the music business right after Diddy got arrested. No, really, right after.
Wonder why.
There's all kinds of, I don't know, man.
I've seen it even within our own business. I'm not going to say the company I work for, but a bunch of people who don't seem like they're so like you can retire once you meet the threshold, of years of service and age and whatever. But most people, especially in a business that's not like going downhill, our stock is going up and our earnings are higher than last year's earnings. So we're doing well. But there's a lot of folks that instead of sticking around like they usually do, they put a few more years in or something. Because usually once you get up in kind of the executive chain, you're not as in danger of losing your job over something,
right,
or being like let go because there's too many people working or anything. Like, I don't want to say that your job's easier because I'm sure in their world it's not easier, but you don't not just hang on for that extra, like, hey, if I get a couple more years, I'll have X amount more in my 401k or X amount more in this or whatever, and I'll be sitting pretty, There's people that you wouldn't expect to be retiring because we get this little internal company thing, so-and-so's leaving the business, so-and-so's retiring after 26 years, blah, 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 like so on and so forth. And that has escalated.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting.
What do you think? It's all about Diddy.
All right.
I think greed is a funny thing. Like, in order to attain any level of wealth, there has to be a need for greed. I've never seen anybody just kind of get wealthy by happenstance. It's like, oh no, there's a drive, there's a commitment, there's something that we're pushing for here.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's push for it and let's get stone cold wealthy. Like, forget being rich. Rich is like Shaq. Wealthy is the guy who signed Shaq's checks. Okay. Like, there's a huge difference between the two. Oh, I'm worth $100 million. That's great. The guy who pays me is worth $2.7 billion. That's a different level of like,
I'd be good with either. But.
either one.
Me too.
I'm with you.
Me too.
I'll take 50 million. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, oh, yeah. But this also explains why, like, when you build that level of wealth, as opposed to just kind of acquiring it all at once, like lottery winners, you tend to maintain it a whole lot better. Lottery winners, they win, and then, like, they're in deep debt. But when you're at the level that you're talking about, where you're making, you know, $400, $500, $600, $2.3 million a year, and it's like, yeah, I'm just going to pad the checks, you know, like.
Well, I mean, it becomes hard to walk away. Like, if you're comfortable in your job, and, you know, it's not like, oh God, I hate going to work every day, and this is just hell for me, and you're making good money, and the paycheck is fat every month or every 2 weeks or however often you get paid, and you know, you're not in this situation where, like, oh, I got kids to spend time with, because, you know, assumably all that's pretty much done. Maybe you got grandkids and stuff like that. But you're like, hey, you know, why don't I just, you know, stick around for a little while longer? I could retire today if I wanted to, and we'd be okay. But let's make a plan. I'll stick around for a little while longer, and we'll have, you know, a bunch of fat extra cash sitting aside for when I do walk away. You know,
While I train the next guy who's going to take my job.
or whatever, you know, or while I leave a legacy for myself. I see that a lot, especially in CEOs, if they're going to retire and not move on. CEOs that move on tend to not give a crap at the end, and then they just move on and leave the cleanup to the next guy. But CEOs that are going to retire usually like to leave a legacy for themselves. Like, this is what I did with the company, and then they leave, you know.
Right.
So when you start seeing your elderly CEO or your aging out CEO making like big fat legacy moves, you know that it's probably close to being over. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But CEOs are retiring in droves, you're saying?
Yeah. I wouldn't.
Okay,
say
not droves.
but like it was right after the diddler got arrested. People, it's like the next 2 days, people were dropping out. Like, you know, the first red flag was like in the the record industry,
Right.
you know what I mean, and that kind of business. So I almost like, I can't really even talk about much about it because it's just so, you know, adult.
Yeah.
But it's really looks just like the Jeffrey Epstein thing. I almost think that he was involved in it not just for pleasure and doing this stuff, but I think he was like Epstein. It's believed now that Epstein was worked for intelligence to get dirt on people. You know what I mean? All the rooms were videotaped. You know what went on there. He got these people, you know, like, well, you're going to vote no on this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to, you know. And that was it. They were owned after that. And that is what people are whispering about with Diddy and the recording industry and the show business. Is like, yeah, he was put in that position to have these parties and videotape people and then tell them, you know, hey, look what we got you doing. You know what?
We own you now.
We own you now.
Yep.
Right. You're going to, yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Get 'Em to the Greek?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That now takes on a whole different.
I don't know if I'm ever going to watch that again.
The same way again.
Oh my
Have you seen this,
gosh.
Bill?
No, I have not.
Okay, so Get 'Em to the Greek is Russell Brand. He did this like really amazing song, this album, and Jonah Hill plays this like, he's not really a corporate stooge, but he's got this
More or
idea.
less he is,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's got this idea that he can take Russell Brand's character and like bring him back for like the 10th anniversary of the dropping of this album. It's like, all right, cool.
Because his career's kind of like taking a nose.
Okay.
Right, it's petered out a whole lot.
And I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, Sean Combs plays the record exec, his boss.
Gotcha.
And he sends him out to. I didn't mean to steal it from you.
No,
He
that's
just
great.
kind of sends him out to go. He's like, your job is to go pick him up and then get him to the Greek theater by such and such a date. But anyway,
Right.
yeah.
So the idea is we've got to get this guy to the Greek theater. And I actually wasn't even going to, like, you didn't step on my toes at all. Thank you for adding that. So I think Diddy actually plays himself in this movie. And at some point, one of the characters, several of the characters, a few of the characters, take a drug called a Jeffrey.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, my God.
The kind of things that he says, like,
Yeah,
you won't
when
remember
life's-
anything. And
Yeah, when life slips you a Jeffrey, stroke the furry wall. And all the walls are made of like some sort of fur material, some faux fur. So it's like as you're tripping, just like stroke the wall, just stroke the wall, just stroke the wall. Oh my God, that takes on a whole new turn as well. Oh
I
my-
feel like at
it's
some
so
point
twisted.
in time, I really feel like at some point in time, the government's going to come out when they're like, it can't be hidden anymore. And these alien ships are, but listen, we've been telling you for years, we put it in all the movies. Like,
Yeah, right.
come
Yeah.
on, guys, it was right there. Like,
Yeah.
and we're all going to be like,
For real?
I wanted
Really?
to touch on that, actually. I wanted to touch on something about that tonight, but yeah. But the thing we got to talk about him chasing Jonah Hill and Russell in that movie.
Yeah, he chases them down the hallway.
down the hallway of the hotel. Well, we've seen the video now
Mm-hmm.
of him chasing his girlfriend and like beating her up. You
He
know,
knocks
it was-
the crap
that
out
was
of her.
so messed up, man.
Jeez.
Like we thought
She
Ray
was
Rice's
trying to-
situation was bad.
She was involved in the parties. I'm not gonna say the words, but and she actually escaped, and he came out and grabbed her and like, it's horrible.
Yeah, he was like in the shower
So
and
it's-
she was like, "Now's my time," and she
it's-
took off.
Yeah, but it's not a party anymore when you're doing that. When you got to
Right.
When you're so, what are you doing that for? I mean, are you that mad? Which could very well be, or is there something else going on? Is there other people have interests in this?
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Like who
I
are
don't
you
know,
who are
man.
you giving this information to, and what are you getting in return?
My question is, have they tested the baby oil yet?
someone said that. Someone said, and I don't. There's so
Yeah.
much talk. Internet talk. So, but somebody said that it was laced with something.
Yeah, GHB, I think they said, or something like that. I can't remember what it is, but
Is
like
that it?
basically the date rape drug.
Right.
Yeah, like and
No
then
way.
yeah, that's what I've heard from a couple different things that I've seen.
That
Oh, it's
would
not
not-
just baby oil; it's got that in it, and when
Wow.
applied,
Oh man.
You're unaware of what's happening.
right.
Wow.
I got
Wow.
a new. I'm going to look into
This
that.
rabbit hole.
You know what? You know what's also very interesting. If we remember a while back, the whole Cosby thing, right?
Yeah.
And it looked like that was going to get pretty heavy, and he was going to go away for a long while, and then he got released.
That was weird.
Did he make a comment about what was going on that was much bigger than his issues and get a bargain deal out of it? And they
let him
kept
out
it
for some reason.
and they kept
So-
it quiet
Right.
because they're like, okay, well, let's go look into this, and if it's true, then you can just stay in your house for the rest of your life, which isn't going to be very long. The dude's old AF, but
Right.
like, okay, you've led
That's-
us to the
you
right
know what,
individuals.
man? Something. So I don't believe they just said, you know what, now, Bill. Yeah, we're just going to let him out today.
So
Yeah,
they
no.
didn't. My understanding of the situation is that there was a technicality. Like he said he was going to confess to everything. And in the confession, it was like there was a plea deal that he wasn't going to serve time. Like it wasn't going to be admitted into evidence. And then the prosecutor was like, but this is all the evidence we need. So they brought it to the courthouse and they were like, yeah, so this is it. And once again, my understanding is during the appeal process, they said, yeah, all that wasn't supposed to be said in front of the jury. kind of like with the Menendez brothers, you know, they were being abused as well. And it was a situation where they were like, well, we took dad out. And in the first trial, it was, yeah, we took him out because this is what was happening. And that's why they claimed self-defense. In the second trial, they were like, yeah, you can't admit any of that stuff. So what happened? Motive doesn't matter. You guys are going to get a lot of money from this. Great. Lock them up for life. And that's kind of how they ended up going to prison forever. But the situation being what it is, like, there are all these backdoor deals that are happening, and it's damning. You know, I look at the scales of justice, and, you know, she's blind and she's got the scales. It's like whoever can prove whatever is the person who gets to win the case.
Well, and unfortunately, in this day and age, it's pretty much whoever has the amount of money to prove.
Literally, yes.
Really?
We remember
Because,
the
you know,
OJ trial.
Yeah, you go up against a big company. You know, if you've got, let's just say, you own a little store and you sold a product that has something that's Disney's intellectual property on it, and they decide that they don't like that, you're done. You're literally done. If you don't, they'll cease and desist you, and if you don't follow that, you're done, and they will run you into the ground until every single penny you own is gone, and you'll owe them for the rest of your life.
Speaking of which, did you hear about the woman who she died at Disney World?
Recently?
This was within the last few months.
Yeah.
No.
She died at Disney World. Her spouse started a lawsuit, and Disney was like, yeah, you have no suit, because according to the terms and conditions of Disney Plus, which you guys are subscribers of, you guys can't sue us for anything.
Hold harmless.
Whatsoever.
No way.
Yeah, hold harmless.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, it's on that level, and it's kind of scary that it's on that level.
Yeah, and like a lot of people balked at that, and I've heard, I don't know anything factual, but I've heard that they're going to do something like
That would be the PR thing to do.
We're not just going to leave it. But the problem is, any one of these big corporations, or even a medium-sized corporation, if they were to sue you or I, we're done, and they don't care. You could be, you know, you're homeless for the rest of your life. You're just done. They don't care. They don't care. And it's because you can't afford a lawyer that can beat their team of lawyers.
Right. And it legit is a team.
Yeah, I mean,
lawyers.
When my grandma was alive, she fell at Walmart, and it was their thing. It wasn't water on the floor. I wanted to say they had something on the floor that was slippery, and she fell, and she's old at that point, and they dragged her through the mud for years before they finally paid her medical stuff, and she got nothing else out of it.
Man.
That was it. Yeah, like Walmart. Yeah.
Jeez. Whew. So
I
what do
don't
you
know,
got?
man. Play the
What else you
lottery.
got?
I know this, not to stay on it, but this thing is going to go on and on with Diddy.
There's a lot to unpack.
Right. And the investigator just the other day, there was 120 people, since he's been arrested, 120 people have come forward with claims of SA. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And the youngest was 9 years old at the time. You didn't know about this?
No.
Yeah. So I won't go into more details, but the last thing I'll say about this is the investigator said, he's standing up giving a speech, cameras and everything. He says, I'm sure some of you think I'm going to stand here and name names. He says, that's going to happen, but it's not going to happen today. And those names are going to shock you.
Mm. But didn't we hear the same thing in the Epstein thing? Like,
Yeah.
hey, we're going to get a list.
Yes, we did, man.
And
so
then,
we'll see.
And
we
then
will see.
he unalived himself, quote unquote.
They said he did.
Right. We'll leave that alone. That's a whole other show. He unalived himself, and then they were okay, I don't know that we're going to read the names, or the names thing just kind of fell off the face of the planet. Mm-hmm. And then the Maxwell chick.
Yeah, Glenn.
Got arrested and jail, and we're going to come out with all these names, and there's people everywhere saying, hey, we've got video, and we've got this, and we've got that. It just all
Yeah, with that, it sure did, man. It sure did. When I saw that Prince Andrew wasn't going to face charge, I was like,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
here we go.
Like, here's somebody who is, for what it's worth, I mean, the monarchy in England is literally just a set of titles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, like, this dude related to the queen?
Right.
No.
Right. Well, and you saw how quick the queen was like, bye.
She was like, nah,
Oh, I know.
you're
She-
done, dude.
yeah.
Bye.
We cannot be associated
Yep.
with whatever it is that you did.
Well, and I
or
think
didn't
that
do,
situation is incredibly difficult too, for the simple fact that when you're looking at and the Epstein kind of situation, he had a lot of traffic in and out, people on his plane, people he met with, so on and so forth. And if it is a situation like you said, where it was a let me catch you doing this, and now I own you, and I have power over you to influence your decisions and major things. Who was the victim and who was a perpetrator? Because just because, Jim Bob decided to fly on his plane and go to his private island doesn't mean he participated in activities.
Right.
But also then you have to think, if they were using it for a power thing, did you bring them there, get them intoxicated, allure them with a bunch of legal looking girls, and then say, by the way, that person wasn't legal, that you took to the back room, and we have video evidence of it, and now we want to make sure that we have your support for insert what we want done here.
Right.
And if you
Yeah.
don't, then, well, we'll just let this tape find its way out on the web, and you're cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's possible, and I've heard it, the situation being, it started with, oh, hey, everybody in the room is legal, and it ended with allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly. It started with everyone in the room is legal, and it ended with two people in the same room. One was a consenting adult, the other one was a minor who couldn't consent.
Right.
So the idea of all of that kind of happening, it's like, wow. But I also think of the situation with, like, Justin Bieber. He flat out was like, yeah, I'm going to hang out with Diddy for, 48 hours. And he was totally cool with it.
Man, that's...
And then the very next video, he's like, hey, Sean.
Yeah, right. Man, that's so... It's really hard to watch that.
It's
Those
disgusting.
Yeah.
It's really disturbing, man.
Because, like, what did he witness or experience or go through? What did he go through in those 48 hours that made him go, hell to
Well,
the
the
no?
thing is that Diddy would... The thing is that what they're saying is that he would drug you, then he would videotape you doing some stuff, crazy stuff, and then that's how he owned you. But he would drug you first.
Right.
And he would have people repeatedly do things for him. You know what I mean? And participate in these,
Atrocious
he would want
activities.
favors and things.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah. And so, the rumor has it, you were talking about, they'll just let the video out. There are rumors now that, well, and it's not hard to believe that there would be a leak somewhere of some of this evidence that the FBI has videotapes of Hollywood types, you know what I mean, involved in these parties. And do you know how much that would go for? You know what I mean, on the dark web?
Oh my gosh.
Hundreds of thousands, maybe millions. Who
Oh,
knows?
I mean, well,
Millions.
any news organization that could break that
Oh, yeah.
would pay an astronomical amount of
Yeah.
money for it. I mean,
This
that's
is going to make our
So
budget
it's like
for the
someone
next 3
walking around with
years.
gold. You know?
Yeah.
right, that's like getting
It's-
your hand on the first iPhone prototype. It would have been
Yeah.
worth
Yeah.
everything. Like, hey, we heard something crazy's coming out,
And being
you
able to
got
rush
it.
it to production.
Name your price.
Right.
Like, bro, it.
Yeah.
Now, I can't help but think what race will play into this, because Epstein, I mean, like, okay, he allegedly unalived himself. All right, cool. But do they make Combs serve the entire sentence? Do they make him just run that entire gauntlet for every atrocity that he's
I think it depends on what he says, because here's the thing. They knew, and we're going to get off into a whole other conspiracy area over here.
The Illuminati.
They knew that Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't going to keep his mouth shut.
Right.
And he got killed by Jack Ruby. Basically, after he told him, look, I'm just a patsy. This operation is much bigger than me.
Yeah,
I'm just
leave me alone.
a trigger man, like, hey, whatever. And he
Can't
didn't
have
last
that.
long. Like, it really depends on whose name is on that list and what kind of power those people have. Because, like, listen, if there's a list of people, which there is, we know because we've seen, like, we know that Epstein had flight logs and all that stuff. There's a list of people who flew on that plane and spent time at that island and stuff. If those names on that list are big names, the list is never coming out.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one thing to some random Hollywood star. They're rich. Okay, but they're not influential. They're
not
an
powerful.
actor. Like whoop-de-doo, you've got so and so on there. They were in a bunch of films. They got a bunch of money. That's cool. If we release that, I'm not going to say an actor's name because I don't know any names on the list. But if we release this actor who's super popular, you think he's a perv and he's done. Okay,
Right.
No big deal. But if you've got senators and congresspeople and former and current presidents and stuff on said list that were involved in this, it's never coming out.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to bury that.
It'll be gone. It'll be gone. The list won't exist, and he'll eat it for the crime,
Yeah.
and he'll be okay as long as he keeps his mouth shut.
Right. And he's got to literally go to the grave with it.
But I would
And
be
it
willing to
depends on
bet.
when that
Yeah.
grave time will be.
I'd be willing to bet.
I don't.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'd be willing to bet that when Epstein was in there being questioned, he started opening his mouth about stuff, and there was probably somebody that was a part of that process that said, he's speaking.
Well, Bill Barr went and talked to him like
Yeah.
the day before he was found dead.
Yep, he's speaking, and that's all it took. Because,
Yeah.
listen, for matters of national security,
Oh.
and at the end of the day, 40 years from now, when it all comes out, and they're, why did that list never go public? But, like, it was a matter of national security. We
Literally
had to.
everybody
Yeah.
on that list is dead now. So
Yeah.
Right.
we don't have to worry about it. Like,
right.
what?
They're all gone. It was a matter of national security. We couldn't release it. There are bigger things going on than what anybody knew about, and it would have caused a bunch of blah, 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 and that's all they'll say, and it'll be
Right.
done.
I'll tell you what, though, is coming out, and it might not be like, you might not get the list of names, but little things that were talked about like 5 years ago, like the murder of Whitney, or the death of Whitney Houston, and her daughter, like exactly a year later, the same way, and very strange circumstances surrounding her death. Now these things are being talked about again. The death of Aaliyah. Yeah, and a lot of these things are being talked about, and people are getting really nervous because some of these people, they're not A-listers and they're not government or anything. They don't have the millions to pay off, and so we'll see. I'm hoping that we'll get some answers to some things, that people told me I was crazy about when I used to talk about, Whitney Houston, like the
Right.
I went off on a little thing with the death of Whitney Houston.
Yeah, that seemed real suspect to me too.
Yeah, the drowning and just everything, and like I don't know if you saw the day before she died, Clive Davis, I think Brandy, and Mary J. Blige, maybe, I don't know. 3 of them are sitting down. Whitney goes up and hands somebody a note, said, "That's for you." And she was talking to somebody. You over here saying, "Did you know I almost drowned again?" And there's Clive Davis with his horns, and just like, After she died in the hotel, he was throwing a party in that hotel.
Right.
They knew she was dead, and the party went on.
Mm-hmm.
They're popping champagne, knowing her body is still in the building. It's something very sinister.
It's really nuts because there's been a lot of suspicious deaths in the past, I would say 2-3 decades, where it's like it's just really unfeasible that person would have killed themselves, unalive themselves, or
Bob
you
Saget.
know, or had these miraculous accidents like a plane crash. Like, okay, we think, oh, plane crashes happen, but like they don't happen a lot anymore.
Yeah.
And when they
Yes.
do, it's easy.
Yes.
Like, well, we tracked it down to like the Boeing 737 Max 800, I think it was, like with the tube that freezes up or becomes inoperable, and the software causes the nosedive. Okay, we figured that out. That commercial airliners don't normally fail so spectacularly anymore, and personal jets are certified and recertified,
Right.
regulated, and these pilots have hours and hours and hours of flight time, and like you got to think Taylor Swift is flying all over the place all the time. You go look at, like, there's a website with her private jets stuff on it, and you can see it on Flight Radar and everything too, but like people make fun of her over her carbon emissions all the time, like she ain't crashing, like it's just these just crazy ways that people we heard this about so and so, and then 3 days later they got into a car wreck and
Yeah.
died.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
A lot of people have been unalived found themselves dead around Sean Combs, Tupac, Biggie Smalls, Aaliyah, his ex wife who was writing a book, you know what I mean, and then died. I think those things, I have hope that those things are going to come out. You know what I mean? Well, they already got somebody. Oh, we were already talking about Tupac last time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that. But I don't know. I'm hopeful that some truth will come out. It
I
won't
think
be everything. But
no, I think people who have the money or in power, and certain groups of people who have been in the ultimate power in the past have a lot of power and can make things happen pretty easily and make them happen very cleanly, and the public just accepts it as something that happened.
What were
I
the
mean,
three things that you said happen for a reason? Like, it's money, power, and
sex.
sex. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the three things. So it's one of those three things that is necessary to make.
Well, and in the world of being called out for something atrocious that would get you put behind bars or something like that, it's definitely both of three of those things,
It's
money
two
and
of three,
power, like I think that if I even have an inkling, if I'm a person in power, like some of the people that I've alluded to, if I'm a person in power and I think that you're going to say something, you're going to have a high probability of saying something that's very believable, or maybe something that is verifiable, like you can track it down, and then as we've seen, in other cases where then other people finally come out and say, oh yeah, this is a thing. Then if I have the money and power, then I'm probably going to do the thing, and you're going to unalive yourself.
Yeah. Remember, did you see Breaking Bad?
Yep.
Yeah. Walter White did not seem like the type of guy who was going to, Heisenberg. Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, Heisenberg showed up in episode 1 when the guy was making fun of his kid, and he walked around the store and kicked the crap out of the kid. That's when I feel we saw Heisenberg for the first time.
Yeah.
But then taking it a step further, there's what was the name of the episode? Paying Dues or something like that, where he orchestrates the death of like 7 people in prison that
Well,
he's
and then-
never seen or met. He's like,
Wow.
Well, and then look,
Yeah.
here's the
What?
thing, as a government. So if you're in a high leadership environment in the government where you have to take care of national security threats, and I'm not talking about like somebody came over the border and they're going to blow up a mall or stop a presidential debate or that obviously, that's whatever. But I'm saying like, hey, there's something coming from within. I can't control what these senators or Congress people or presidents or vice presidents have been doing. I wish they wouldn't do it, but now I have to clean up the mess. And I've got one of two options. I let it all come out and I let it be known that this vice president, senator, congressman, whatever, was doing these horrible things at these parties or whatever, or flying to this dude's private island and doing these horrible things. and it causes an absolute dumpster fire where tons of people have to go to jail. The United States has egg all over its face because all these people are being pointed out for all these terrible things, and continuity of government is at stake.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely not.
it's not going to happen. And not because those people don't deserve to go to jail, but because if I'm going to compromise the continuity of government, that ain't going to work.
Right.
It's got to not. So we got to put a stop to this.
So I'm thinking of it from the perspective of whether it's Epstein or Diddy. Do you remember Glass-Steagall?
That's not ringing a bell.
No.
1933. It's the act that took. Let me pull it up. Glass-Steagall. It's the Banking Act of 1933. Was a law that separated commercial and investment banking in the United States. The whole point was to prevent what happened in 2007. So Citicorp back in 1997 merged with Travelers Group, and they just started the merger. They didn't even really go into, oh yeah, we got to clear this through Congress. It was like, no, we're just going to start the merger. Congress was like, oh hey, we're the great economic boom, so yeah, they just passed it, and that allowed for Citicorp and Travelers Group to become Citigroup, the first $1 trillion company.
Right.
The issue was when commercial loans started to go south because they started like manufacturing, like ultimately what led to the crisis in 07, 08, or it started in like 05, was that you had, I want to say REITs, real estate investment trusts. Yeah. You had REITs who were basically, you're investing into these REITs and you're getting your money because the people are paying their mortgage, and because they're paying their mortgage, like that now comes to you. Okay, cool. And if I'm wrong on this, please feel free to like clean that up. Okay. If you know better than I do, I'm totally fine with that. But what ended up happening was we needed more higher class loans. So it was no longer just A-type mortgages where the loan to value and the debt to income ratio was great and the people's credit score was amazing. It was like, okay, cool. So the people who had like the 750 to 850, yeah, we're going to use those loans because we can guarantee that the people will make their money when they're doing the investments. It was like, yeah, well, we've kind of run out of all those houses and we've run out of all those loans. So why don't we just take like B and C loans and then just bump them up one so that more people, like we could make so much money doing this. Of course, the problem is people are now getting qualified for loans for homes that they're missing their first mortgage payment. It's like, what?
Well, and the people approving the loans don't care.
And they don't care because their job is just to process the loan.
Yeah, I got the bonus for, approving 43 loans this month.
Yeah,
I don't care that grandma can't afford the $3,000 a month house payment.
That's not my problem.
Nope. When she defaults, it ain't affecting the fact that I got their loan approved. And,
right.
And yeah.
And what ended up happening was, and it started with Washington Mutual, a bank that no longer exists. Washington Mutual bought Dime, Savings Bank of New York, because Dime was hurting. They had a lot of these bad loans on the books. So WAMU buys the book of business, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna make so much money when this happens. And Washington Mutual wasn't the only bank that did this. There were a bunch of other banks that did this as well. In fact, the banks that didn't take advantage of this are the banks that are still around today.
Oh, wow.
So Chase, JP Morgan Chase, let me see, Chemical Manhattan, that's gone. I think Chemical in Manhattan became Dime. Anyway, but the big banks that are around still either just had the assets to eat that, or they got bought. They were the ones that the government was like, okay, we need you to buy these smaller banks because if the banking industry fails, we're screwed. I say all of this to say, who were the senators and who were the Congress people who benefited from an act like this and bringing it home, because there was the runway. How many of them
freaking long runway, bro,
took a visit or multiple visits to Epstein Island to make this happen?
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Wow.
Right? Right? So what is it that's going on that we're not seeing that Diddy was involved in, that he was the guy just to be, oh, hey, I'm the music man? Because Diddy was not the music man. Diddy was a kid from New York City, I want to say Brooklyn, who was going to Howard University, and on the weekends, on his own dime, he would take the train to New York to hang out with Biggie and all these big like music acts because he wanted to get into the music industry. And he basically just like worked for free to make that happen. And when it came time for a rap division to come up, they were like, yeah, we got a guy who's going to do that. It's him.
Right.
And there were people who were VPs of the company. I want to say it was Arista, but it's probably not. There were VPs who were like, oh, this punk kid, he's 20 nothing. Like, what does he know? I've got more experience in the business than he's been alive, who now started working for Diddy because of the connections that he made. So with those connections, like, no one's untouchable.
Mm-hmm.
And when you reach a level like that and you can touch just about anybody with power, with money,
Yeah.
oh yeah, come to this party. I got baby oil.
Man.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything. You know, just, well, you'll get your massage. It's fine.
How much is a newspaper?
Oh God, I don't even know anymore.
$1?
That's how much information you get.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yo, I honestly didn't expect to kind of get to this point and make these kind of connections on this level, because as I'm telling you guys this, I am thinking it up. So
But it could go so many different ways.
it really could.
Yeah.
I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that this is gospel. Believe me when I tell you, I am not that smart and I do not have that level of connections. And I don't live in St. Louis, and don't come find me. Okay, so like,
Oh my God.
but yeah, I was just like, it's a hypothetical. And, you know, much like the government cheese in Missouri, there's a black van still sitting outside my house. I'm
What's
joking.
this?
I'm joking.
I don't think we've ever. So there's a strategic United States strategic cheese reserve in Missouri caves.
I'm such an idiot.
Government cheese.
Okay.
The government, I guess, at one point in time, I pulled it up and talked about it on one of the previous shows, but the government at some point in time bolstered the cheese industry by buying a metric ton, like tons and tons and tons of cheese.
And it's in a cave?
It's in a cave
Yes.
in Missouri, and it's a federal facility. And we were talking on the last show, I'm like, how hilarious would it be to go to prison for raiding the federal cheese reserve? Like your picture with wheels of cheese as they're dragging you away. Like, I think that would be hilarious.
That would be hysterical.
You gotta quote Dave Chappelle at that point. I'm rich, bitch. Like,
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, like,
Right.
it's. I bet it's epic cheese too, because it's been sitting down there in those like
Oh.
60-degree
yeah,
caves,
perfect
aging,
temperature. It's controlled.
and like I imagine like that's got to be one of those assignments as like a military officer or something
I'm
like.
guarding the cheese.
Right, like, hey, you suck at everything else. You're assigned to the cheese. That's where you're going.
And then it's like, what?
The
That's like-
cheese.
You're the
What do you-
traffic
what do you-
cop gets the.
What do you mean? Like, this is the last straw for you.
Right,
Like,
right.
we're
Like,
not going to dishonorably discharge you.
listen, we even tried sending you to like Alaska, the worst assignment ever, and to freeze your butt off and all, and that didn't work. They didn't want you there, and they want anybody, and so you're assigned to the cheese.
No.
Yeah,
Could you imagine?
the cheese man.
What? I was just thinking, the next time I am going to be on this show will be after the election,
Oh,
but we don't.
Oh.
Yeah, we won't get into that. We don't want to start talking about that. We don't have that much time. But there was a guy arrested with a gun at the Trump's Coachella rally. Did you hear about
I
that?
heard about that. Yes,
Trump was at Coachella?
they're calling it.
No.
They're calling it
No, yeah, right.
assassination attempt number 3.
Yeah. But the guy is that they arrested, and I just heard a little bit of this, is kind of like anti-government kind of person.
Oh.
And the thing is that he was like released on like a very low bond.
It's like $5,000 or something.
$5,000 or something like
Yeah.
that, like released. And really, he was just caught with the gun. He wasn't, aiming it or on top of a building or anything. What's weird about this is that he was arrested, or they caught him at the checkpoint where he's going to go in. Like, he knew they'd find it. So, what are you doing? Did you do that to bring awareness to this? Did you know what I mean? Like, it's getting to this point. They're trying to kill him. You know what I mean? That kind of, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
That is bizarre. Like,
I think he's involved with a group, and that's why that's why I think that there would be something like that, like a move. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because the candidates now have Secret Service protection. They already said, okay, we've passed this, that anybody who's a legitimate, serious candidate is protected the same as the president would be. So, like, they're not going to let you in with a gun. They're not going to let you in with a handgun, let alone something bigger than that. Like, and the dude's a registered Republican, and apparently he had run in a race for, I can't remember right off the top of my head, but I'm almost wanting to think it was like Senate level or something at one point in time before.
Like
Obviously
state Senate
lost.
or like U.S. Senate?
I can't
Oh,
remember.
okay.
But,
okay, cool.
But yeah, like he's known, but it is just odd. Like, why would you even think, it's like bringing a gun to the airport. You're not going to get through.
Right.
Bro, they're going to find it.
And if you're a gun owner, you would know these things.
Right. And
you know what I mean? Like,
and now you're going to be a felon, and you're never going to be able to own a gun again.
Or vote.
Or, yeah, like, bro, they're going to take all of that away from you at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like, why would you, why?
They did it for a reason, For some reason, he did it.
Yeah.
I will say, in the age of where we are technologically, the fact that we're on a podcast, there are more than just the people who are viewing. It's recorded. It's going to be seen. Words are so critical. They've always been. But now we have access to literally everyone on the planet at any given point in time through the right channels. Like, this takes 6 degrees of separation to a whole new level. You can't just say stuff and think, oh, yeah, it's just a throwaway line. Like, no. When you're in the public eye, especially like that, it's like you absolutely have to be mindful of your words. And like, you can't just say what you want and think, it's no big deal. Somebody's taking it seriously. In fact, there's a movie that I saw, The Terrifier 3 over the weekend. And oh my gosh, that was a gory movie.
What was it?
Terrifier 3. Oh. So, never saw 1 or 2. Don't know how we got to this point in the story, but I know this is where we are. Basically, there's a mad clown who I think is demonic because he had no head at the beginning of the movie, and then he, like, found his head. And in the meantime, he took somebody else's head and, like, stuck it on the stump and was, like, holding it while he was on the train till he could get to his body, to the body to the head. And yeah, like,
good October movie.
Yeah, it was. This movie is so unbelievably violent that it does not have a rating.
Oh man.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Yeah. So, buddy of mine, he'll be on the show sometime later. Cameron, he was like, "Hey man, you like horror movies? Yeah, sure. Terrifier 3 Thursday? Sure." And then after I agreed, he sends me this link and it says, people have walked out of the movie and they have vomited, no refunds. Like, Anyway, that's not the movie I want to talk about. I want to talk about this movie. It's an anime movie called My Hero Academia, You're Next. And basically the story kind of picks up, I think it's as a result of season 3. There's an event in season 3 where the number one hero, he beats the number one villain. Like, it's once and for all, it's done, it's over, and he has no power left. The hero has no power left. And he points at the camera and he says, "You're next." And he knows who he's talking to. The kid, Deku, knows that All Might has now officially passed the torch to him. But there's another character that we haven't seen prior to this movie who's like, oh, All Might was talking to me, and I'm going to be the greatest villain. And it's like, so I'm just saying, like, we've got to be super mindful of what it is that we're saying. And when you reach the level where nationally people are following you, you can't just say anything.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Because there are repercussions for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
We don't have to tiptoe just yet, though.
No. Us? No, not yet. And
we're not Joe Rogan level.
No, we're not there.
Right.
I do want to I touched on it briefly, the 23andMe.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be quick because I know we've got just a couple minutes left. So ultimately what happened with 23andMe, they had 8 board of directors, and these 8 board of directors kind of got the 23. Okay, let's start with what 23andMe is. 23andMe is an ancestry website. You send them a swab of spit, you send it to them, and they break it down as to where your lineage comes from. You're from Norway, 12%. You're from South Africa, 3%, and all this other stuff. So they break it down to where you are from. And they started in business in 2006. Between 2006 and 2024, this company has achieved 7 to 8 million. It's been more than 7 million DNA samples. In 2021, they went public. And when they went public, it became like their stock price was like $16 or $17 a share. As of a few weeks ago, it's 39 cents a share.
Oh.
7 of the 8 board of directors said, I'm out. So now the one remaining board of director, she is one of the co-founders. And the question is what happens next? Because you're sitting literally on a gold mine of DNA.
Yes. That's insane.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's where I think that, and everything happened so fast as the internet evolved very, very quickly. In fact, we know that things happened so quick during the .com boom that people got away with things that weren't even like as nefarious as an Epstein or Diddy thing, but like just they got away with it because things were just zooming. But there needs to be, for the sake of people's privacy, which almost doesn't exist anymore, there needs to be some regulation on how those types of companies operate. Like, you can't keep DNA samples associated with a name. You just can't. It's okay to keep your, like, hey, out of the 7 million people that we've had send their samples in, 30% of them are from Iceland. That's a really cool thing to think about, or have like levels and graphs and all the things that you want to keep from that. But like, your purpose was to get a client to pay you to send a kit. They swab themselves, they send it back, you tell them where they're from. That's it. Not to sell their data to somebody else, not to cause it to be leaked onto the dark web, not to get so big that a giant company that has interest in genetic modifications and so on and so forth buys you out and then owns all that DNA data. There needed to be some regulation around that, because already the people that collect your data can't keep it secure. Every day we're hearing about data leaks here and there, be it social security numbers, private addresses, bank account numbers, everything gets leaked all the time. And so that kind of information that could be very bad in the future. We're not at the point where somebody could get your DNA and be like, poof, I got another Brian.
Not yet.
Not yet, but in the future, you don't know.
So, thinking of it from this perspective, because I know one thing that came of, I think it was Ancestry.com, law enforcement was using, hey, we have a crime, we have DNA, but this person has never committed a crime before, so they're not in the system. So, let's send it to one of these companies and see what comes of it. And it basically came down to, all right, well, we have 3 suspects, person 1, person 2, person 3. We've got a DNA sample. These 3 people are not giving up DNA samples. And they're like burning their hair after they brush it. I don't know. Like, like you're not getting a DNA sample. Like you could get a DNA sample off of a cup, get fingerprints off a cup. These people aren't giving up their DNA sample. But the DNA sample was at the crime scene. So they send it to one of these websites, and a relative of one of these people also sent a sample because they were just interested in what was going on. We've got a partial match. Like, there are so many, there's enough of the code that is, this person is a relative.
Yep.
Okay, so who is it? Well, it's person B, because the DNA is close enough to this person who agreed to have it registered versus this person who didn't agree. So I know there was some logistical, like, law, because it's like, how do you just say that it's evidence? You know, like, you can't just, like, it's a breach of somebody's privacy, you know? So, but even away from that, if tomorrow the world were to come to an end and there was like a handful of people that were left, and now you've got 7 million DNA samples, and we get to that point where you can start just like, we'll just create a new civilization off of this DNA sample. Off of, right?
Wow. Oh
I think I'm stepping into like this realm of conspiracy theory that is just like,
wow, I thought I was the
oh, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, ooh, that's a little nuts.
wow, man.
Well, I mean, you know, it's kind of like keeping the big, massive seed bank that they keep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
That's just
like,
what I was just thinking of
why-
when you said that. Yeah.
why would you keep a big seed bank if there's nobody left to plant the seeds? Doesn't work
Or-
out, does it?
or-
Because it doesn't matter what you do if you have a extinction level event, asteroid, nuclear war, massive disease, whatever it is, and you've got a handful of the population left, you can't repopulate. Not naturally, you
No,
can't.
the DNA itself would be too close. At some
Right.
point, somebody's cousin is their sister. or
Right. I
Something
mean,
weird like that.
You know, and you got to think you're not going to have any of the infrastructure to be like, okay, you know, we've got, 20 people left in the United States that made it. And we've got, 30 people left in the UK that made it. All right, guys, we need to do an exchange. No, you're back in the Stone Age.
and you're not
Right.
from one coast to the other. Yeah.
So you got 20 people to repopulate. No. That's an incredibly shallow gene pool, and you're going to have nothing but problems, and that's not a good starting point, guys,
No.
at all. So
Well, how many people did they start with in the Matrix? After Zion was destroyed, I don't know, but they said we've destroyed Zion 3 times. Anyway,
before we move on, do you have anything else that you wanted to share with us, Nick? That
No, no,
okay.
not really.
all right. So Nick will be back next month,
Yes.
second Monday of the month. It will be after the election, and it'll be a week after my birthday, and it's. I've got somebody lined up for my birthday, by the way.
No, I'm afraid.
Yeah, he's a chemist or a scientist of some sort. In any case, we'll get to that when we get to that. Nick, thank you.
Oh, my pleasure.
It's always a
Always
pleasure
to
having
come in
you.
and talk to you guys.
I love being conspiracy theorist.
Nothing's off limits with me, man.
Absolutely.
You know?
I kind of feel like I might have blown your mind on a couple of things I said.
Oh, you did. Yeah, we're gonna have more to talk about on that DNA
Absolutely.
thing when I come back.
I know I'm gonna do a little bit more digging.
Yeah.
Well, there's rumors that BlackRock is the one that wanted to buy the company.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta
And
get
I've-
into that next.
I've
next
seen
next
that.
time.
I've
Wow,
seen that
man.
from 2 sources now.
They're
and
involved in every conspiracy, every political
Everything.
kind of conspiracy. My gosh.
Everything.
Exactly.
Wow.
Okay. In any case,
That's a can of worms.
Yeah.
thank you, Nick. Thank you, Bill. It's always a pleasure doing this show with you guys. Thank you for viewing and just watching the shenanigans unfold. We'll be back 7:15 next week. We will have Robert Nelson here. He works with Prosperity Connection, but it's a debt resolution without bankruptcy. Basically, we're going to talk credit next week, okay? And we look forward to having you guys here. Thank you so much. Straight out of Studio B in Granite City, I am Brian with a Y, your favorite guy, and this is In the Metro. Have a great week. You're awesome, amazing, and fantastic, and don't let anybody tell you differently.